Hello, my name is Annette James, and I am a program coordinator in the Copyright Office, Office of Public Information and Education. In celebration of Black History Month and honoring Black excellence, I have the distinct pleasure of interviewing Tracie Coleman, who is the chief of the licensing division in the Copyright Office. Not only is Tracie the first woman to hold this position, she's also the first African American. Welcome, Tracie, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, Annette. Thank you so much for having me, and happy Black History Month to you also.
Oh, why, thank you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what led you to the Copyright Office.
Well, I'm a native Washingtonian, and I came to the Copyright Office by way of the Library of Congress. So growing up, I was an avid book reader, and I loved books. So naturally, the Library of Congress was the place for me to be. But I also had a connection because my great aunt, Grace Hall, was a trailblazer in her own right, and she worked in the Processing Services Office. She helped many African American women achieve so many things during her time at the Library of Congress. So much so that the Librarian of Congress referred to her as Amazing Grace. I visited so many times that I knew I had to work at the Library of Congress. However, as I got a little older and started tapping into my creative side, then I realized that I needed to be in the Copyright Office. And in 1991, I realized that goal with my first position in the U.S. Copyright Office.
So Tracie, who are your inspirations and why or how do they inspire you?
Well, I'm a very visual person. So anything, any artwork, dance, expression, photography immediately draws me in. Kehinde Wiley is one of my favorite artists. He's the artist who did President Obama's portrait down at the National Portrait Gallery. And though now I'm in my at-home season, I am now rediscovering my passion for reading and poetry. I am still mesmerized by Amanda Gorman's inauguration poem. And I'm currently reading Isabel Wilkerson's Caste, The Origins of Discontent.
The theme of this year's Black History Month is the Black family, representation, identity, and diversity. What does this mean to you in your creativity? And specifically, what roles do your family play in your creativity?
Artistic expression and creativity runs deep in my family. It started with my great-grandmother, Aunt Grace's mother. She was a classically trained pianist and a vocalist. My first piano teacher, I probably wasn't the best student, but she was my first piano teacher. I also have a cousin. He can just go into a room and reimagine the space. He decorated my entire home. I have a cousin who graduated from Duke Ellington School of the Performing Arts in DC, and she's a sophomore at Oberlin College, majoring in opera theater. Although I'm not artistically inclined, as a child, I was a ballerina. As I got older, I discovered that I liked the movement with modern jazz and soul music. So then I later on joined a dance troupe, and I traveled up and down the East Coast as a performer with that dance troupe. But once I got in high school, the acting bug bit. I was acting in many of the school plays in my high school.
So Tracie, tell us, why is art needed today?
Growing up in DC, I was a frequent visitor of all of the Smithsonian art museums. And I think that art makes you think, it makes you laugh, it makes you cry, it makes you just feel. Art is needed today, especially in this global pandemic situation that we're in. We need a release. Sing, dance, write, paint, draw, create. We just need an outlet or an escape. And so I think art is needed more than ever.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. What is your connection to copyright and the Copyright Office, and how has copyright influenced and guided your work?
My connection to the Copyright Office started immediately when I walked off the elevator on my first day. The Copyright Office used to have an exhibit of artwork, and you walked off, and the first thing that I saw was the Maltese Falcon from the movie, The Maltese Falcon. Then I took 2 steps to the right, and there was Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech, right there in its original form. So I was immediately drawn into the office. A few years later, I was the head of the former certifications and documents section. And in that role, I saw numerous musical scores, original screenplays, original artwork, and I was able to help the owners gain another copy had it been either destroyed in a fire or just lost. And I was able to certify those copies. So if they needed to go to court, then they had proof that their works were their works. Then I was introduced to the other side of copyrights. Working in the copyright records reading room, I talked to artists and they talked about the negative effects of not protecting their works. Then I knew that I had to spread and evangelize the message of copyrights to my family, to my friends, to anyone that I knew was a creative soul. I shared that message so much that in 2005, my brother, who did not think he was a creative soul, Tim Coleman, came to work in the copyright office from 2005 and 2013. And I made him realize that he was a creative soul because he worked as a mentor and a football coach in the community. And I said, when you design and devise those plays, those are original concepts. And when you put those on paper, you are engaging your creativity.
It sounds like you've had some really great experiences handling some of the deposits and some of the creative works that people have actually produced. Tracie, I understand that you are an avid virtual painter. You may have a few of those pieces that you'd like to share with us.
Well, I am. I mean, since I've been in this at-home time, I've just discovered, I can't even say rediscovered because I've never been artistically inclined that way. But I do have a painting here from my engaging my creativity.
I love it. I love it. Tracie, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. It's been fascinating hearing your stories, understanding how you got here, and particularly how your family has nurtured and lent itself to your creativity and just expanding on Black excellence. So appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.